Hello. So I'm here today with Medelhan, which I'm Vanessa Brady, and I'm working here with the lovely Roberto Cuneo from Medelhan. And I represent SBID, which is the Society of British and International Design. And Medelhan is the a global design network. And so we're going to discuss everything that is retail, but I'll come back to that in a moment. First of all, let me just hand you over to Roberto. We know each other for a very long time, Roberto, and we seem to travel all around the world, as all architects and designers and manufacturers do. So now we're talking about what's on after and before the pandemic. So
yeah, absolutely. Yes. But for me, it's a great pleasure to have a special moderator for the event of today as Vanessa Brady. So first of all, hello everybody. Welcome here to Medelhan. As I was saying, for me it's a great really honor because Vanessa Brady is not only the CEO and the founder of the Society of the British and International Designer. And already it's a lot, I would say. It's a very good friend of mine, but we can say that she's one of the most prominent key opinion leaders for the industry of design in UK, but let me say not only in UK, also around the world. So really, it's a really a great pleasure, Vanessa.
Thank
and
you.
So let me say something about why we are here today and why we organize this kind of events. It's because Medelhan is a brand new company, but with old and deep roots in the sector of design. Medelhan is the platform that creates a connection among the industry players of design, investors, developers, architects, designers, brands, manufacturers. And already we have many of the most important players of the world on board on Medelhan. And having such important players, we need to feed them with we need to feed them their interest, their curiosity. And so we came up with this series of events, of international streamings that we call the Next Lifestyle Changes. And with this series, we want to explore the new trends of architecture and design in the post-pandemic era. And to do that, we invited some of the most important players for different sectors, players in terms of architects and designers. And our focuses are office, residential, hospitality, food and beverage. But today we start with the first episode that is dedicated to retail. So I don't want to waste any longer your precious time. So I would give back the word to Vanessa so she can introduce our guest today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Roberto. So we have three excellent architects who, which one of the reasons I'm so delighted to be here, represent fantastic, what shall I say, fashion destinations, as well as the architecture and design, but also spread around the world. So we're represented by, and I'm going to say in order, and I don't speak Italian, but here's the best I can go. So we have Ducciograssi, who is from Italy, but represents showing us some projects from the Far East. And we have Gaelle Rioualen, and who's representing some projects she's done in America, and she's from France. And we also have Alessandra Camiz. And Alessandra is based in, has projects in UK and Italy. So all around we have been whipped around the world, but importantly, today's section in questions are about retail. And it's one of the disciplines that has been completely disrupted by, I would say, the internet and how that has changed in the way that people shop and also about how the shops themselves have to compete with the internet. And that creates a new challenge for the designers and architects. And we all know in the industry that it's one thing to actually get commissioned. Then you actually have to go out and do the job and be better than all the critics and please your client. So I'm going to start, first of all, with the first question is, you know, design, what would be the connection, if you like, between London and Rome in the way that designers and architects are now designing for the retail sector? For, you know, from the pandemic, has that changed the way that you think you will design in the future, reflecting on the way you've designed in the past? So I'm going to go first of all to Ducciograssi.
Sorry, but you mean, can you repeat the question, please?
So it's, you know, what's the difference and what is in common between London and Rome? And maybe you can show us your projects and tell us how you design and what's been your inspiration, and if you think that
because I'm based in Milan and Reggio Emilia in Italy, I had the possibility to work a few times in London, but I'm not so expert in the London scene. We work all around the world, and what we do is trying to respect the culture and the sensitive of the country where we put our shops. So when we, this is particularly evident in the facade, because when we propose our values, for example, the European elegance, I mean elegance for the clothes and also in the interior, in the architecture, we try to do this respecting the country where we find ourselves. Maybe I can try to share some picture.
Yeah, you know, Duccio, you have some flagship stores that you've designed, and I'm particularly interested in the fashion sector. So you have here, I see Max Mara, and you've been designing flagship stores for over 30 years. So if you can tell us some of your vision as to about the spaces to make points of sale.
Yes, because my approach to the interior is an approach that use the tools of the architecture. I mean, shape, materials, and light. And this is much evident in the facade. This is a facade in of a shop in Deluxe Avenue in Beijing. This is the former facade before, and this is our project, our render. We try to divide the structure of the building from the facade, and the facade is just a curtain, is a cascade of light. We take inspiration from these images that come from the Chinese culture. Here in the middle, we see the monkeys Sun Wukong. That is a monkey, it's a positive character that lives in a cave behind a cascade of water. And also here we see that the beauty hide himself behind a vertical curtain. That's what we did. This is the picture of the facade. There is no items to show in the street, just this curtain that divide the real world from the dream. This facade is for a shop in Ginza, Tokyo. This is the former facade that didn't allow to recognize the shop because the glasses are reflecting the building all around. For example, here we see the pink color of the building of Mikimoto in front. So what we do is to put a grill that is like a white lace that Japanese people we saw in going to Japan, that is something that Japanese people likes very much. And also we can find this kind of foam in the Japanese pictures. So this is the inspiration, and this is the final results of this building that would like to be recognized, but also stay well in the city, stay well with the neighbor. This one is in a building in China, Chengdu, and we take inspiration from the ancient Chinese stamps in this case. Of course, we try to have something to communicate in every place, but not every time only one image. We try to stay in the time and the place where we are. For example, this one is a facade in Shanghai, 2019, and that is different from the facade we saw before, because it's more, ecologic. I mean, we try to have a lighting facade, but without so much light pollution like before. And also the material that we use to cover the building is a material that retain the polluting particle. So help the city to have less pollution. We are not the only one to do this, but in 2019 we just started to do, and now the next building we will do this is in Los Angeles, not already done, but we will use the same material, and with the white material must be white. And the pollution, they attract the pollution, then the rain came down,
washes it off.
Yeah.
So, do you have the influence, Duccio, of the color, or is this driven by the client, by their corporate colors?
Sorry, you mean the color?
The color white, is this something that you introduced as
we introduced because the color white is necessary to use this material for the going down the pollution. can't be red or brown or dark, must be white.
What's interesting about your images is that they all look so different in the daytime to the nighttime. You create two completely different looks. And it's also, as a designer of a building, it has to complement the fashion designer's brand as well. So you have a double problem to resolve. And also, I suppose, they take your design and roll it out around the world.
Yeah, we have to image the facade, but also the interior of the shop during the day and during the night, and the effect of the light. This is very important because the light is what reveal the volume, makes the volume. Without the light, there are no volume. This facade, for example, the inspiration is from the American modernism from the 60s. So I don't know if we do, but we try to stay comfortable with the city where we put our shop.
It's really interesting that you're looking at your images. You've gone from 2013 to 2021, and they really do bring in the neighborhood, the brand. So it's a much deeper, stronger, bigger conversation. We can have a webinar just with you. So excuse me 1 second, I'm going to come back to you because your images are very interesting on a much broader scale. But I want to go to Gaelle Rioualen, and Gaelle's the senior principal of Campbell House, and she founded it in 2021 as a full-service interior design firm. But it has studios in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Dallas, New York, and Paris. Well, I just need to come visit with me, I think. Yeah. You have an extensive background in retail architecture and design, largely with Louis Vuitton, which, you know, anyone in design knows the big letters LV. So that is a dream project, because you're challenging with a fashion designer who's going, I mean, I don't know if you buck heads or whether they work with you, but I'm dying to see your designs. And tell us about your experience in the hospitality section.
Yeah, so I have joined actually very recently Campbell House, beginning of June. So I'm very, very new in this company, despite I know very well a lot of members already. We are being very new. We do not have any retail project to show today, but surely we will have soon. And we specialize obviously in retail, in office design, in hospitality, in restaurants, anything that needs an interior designer, if you will. And I wanted to show you some projects of my past, like, as you say, while working with Louis Vuitton, and I was asked what was to me let's say, the biggest change that has happened in the retail industry for the past 10 to 15 years. And to me, I will actually relate directly to what Ducciograssi showed us, is the fact that from 15 years ago to now, we were from a point where the design of the shops, whether it's from architectural, facade, and interior, was very institutional as well as very uniform. So that basically everywhere you would go in the world, you would recognize the brand, because the interior would look like exactly the same, whether you're in New York, in Beijing, or in Dubai, which actually completely changed. And again, that relates to the work Duccio showed for the facade, but works also for the interior. There is now a need and a wish for differentiation, for a sense of location, rather than having this uniformity. And that allows, as an interior designer, to have actually much more, let's say, creativity allowed, to have every single project different from the other, and every single project that relates to a particular narrative, to a particular location, for instance. And I would say let's say the most, how can I say, visual point to this differentiation now has become all of the temporary store and pop-up stores that every single brand now has, whether it's from luxury to mid-scale retail. So allow me to quickly share a presentation to show you just a couple of examples to illustrate that.
It's interesting you say about pop-up because it's such a new challenge for retail. So this is going to be interesting for us.
Yeah, what's interesting with pop-up is obviously because of the duration of the project, you have to be very savvy and wise on budget. You cannot spend as much as you would for a normal store. Yet you would definitely want to have a very, very strong visual impact because that's what brings people in basically.
And it has to link with the brand. So I think I just want to explain to everybody that pop-up is a temporary store. So it might be in a store that's going to be reused in a different field or something, but it's a short-term retail shop for a retailer.
Yeah. For instance, on the screen, I'm showing you guys an example of a temporary space in a department store in France that we designed at the time. And if you look at the little picture on the bottom, the corner at the left, it shows the box packaging of the fragrance. And this is basically what has been used to create this kind of wow effect wall where you would have, boxes popping in and out, creating what I hope is a wow effect while using quite basic material, which means being very efficient budget-wise. So yeah, that would be one of the biggest change in retail. And you mentioned earlier, Vanessa, how retail can compete with the internet. And I think this trend of the pop-up and temporary store is the key, because basically what you provide here is really a bespoke client experience that you cannot really at all actually get with internet. So people go to see these spaces like they would see, in some cases, art installation. Can show you a couple of more recent projects that hasn't been I haven't been work on, but still very interesting. For instance, this sneaker pop-up Louis Vuitton has done in this year. You can tell from the picture the budget spent on this project is not necessarily big. But meanwhile, the visual effect is extremely strong. And, in a world where Instagram leads a lot of things, you can tell this visual probably attracts a lot of people.
You used color rather than product, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. And here is another example that was done by the Louis Vuitton team in New York in 2020, so quite recently, under the direction of Virgil Abloh, who is the creative director for the Men universe, where there is like a grand gesture of pretty much everything is in green, but the product. So the product kind of, pops up, while the whole corn shell is just green, from the books to the furniture to even like the facade. Everything is green. So this is something that is visually extremely impactful, that is not really expensive, but people remind that
people will talk about it, which is key. Yeah,
absolutely. I guess that also kind of gives that brings more accessibility to these, retail points that are now open to everyone, the young people, like pretty much everyone, while in the past that was maybe a little bit too institutional, so that everyone feel welcome.
But something you mentioned, which is interesting, is that, the whole experience of shopping and retail now is all about lifestyle. It's not about going necessarily to the shops to buy a product and come home. It's more about an experience to go out and enjoy life. And in some ways, it's almost going to a shop is like going to a museum, like an exhibition.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the whole point of interior design at the end of the day, and architecture as well, is to create bespoke experience wherever you go, whether it's in retail, whether it's in hotel or restaurant. That's what you wish to be able to provide to the visitors, to the guests, to the customers, like a specific experience they can have only there and not everywhere.
Yes. So really we're inspiring emotion and linking that to the brand. And you have some super brands in there. So we have from Duccio earlier, the Max Mara and your Dior and Louis Vuitton. These brands have their own set image and client base. And so it's quite a challenge for you as a designer to do something for these super brands on a budget for a short term that is different and wow. It's a big challenge.
It is. So that's what we are hoping for the next project, the future, and everything we will be working on.
Well, I think that when they return and ask you to come back and do, you know, these super brands come and ask you to do the next project in itself, that's your accolade. It's, you know, it's the proof is in the pudding, we say.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to come on to Alessandra Camiz. Sorry, Alessandra, I kept you waiting so long, but Alessandra is Alessandra runs the multidisciplinary design firm. It's founded in Rome, isn't it? And you work in London and Rome, and you have retail design field in common. Maybe tell us what distinguishes the difference between London and Rome in the way you work and how your practice works, and tell us some of the super brands that you've worked with in retail.
So yes, Vanessa, we work both in Rome and London, and we do completely different projects there. And we think that the two cities cannot really be compared because they are completely different. They mainly live at different speeds. London is dynamic, fast-paced, and everything changes very quickly and frequently. And there is always something exciting, new going on. And this applies to retail as well. I'll show a small presentation.
Alessandra, do you see a difference in the way that retail is changing from 10 or so years ago in your experience because of the internet?
Well, yes, and I was trying to say that in London, there is like big brands. So we recently worked with Dior, big brands such Dior. They have the two main tools to communicate with their customers. On one hand, they have their flagship stores that they are defined as destination stores, or how they call them houses, where the customers can go and find whatever they need. And on the other hand, they invest a lot on pop-ups. So reconnecting to what Gaelle was saying, pop-ups are a way. These can be pop-up stores, so where products are sold, but also installations or events. And this is where clients find something exciting and new, and is a way for the brand to show that they are constantly evolving. And in London, we recently worked on the Dior pop-up at Selfridges. And this was
in London?
Sorry?
This is Selfridges in London?
Yeah, Selfridges in London, yes. So it's a pop-up store, it's a total rebranding of the existing restaurant Alto at Selfridges, located at the 7th store of the Selfridges. And this was completely rebranded, and then we built two temporary external structures, on the terrace to host a little beach house and lounge. And it is interesting that in this project, the external structures that are initially were conceived to be temporary, because a pop-up store is temporary usually. We insisted a lot for them to be instead permanent, so that Selfridges could use them again in the future for future projects. and this is a way to be sustainable both economically and environmentally. Then Dior applied these with the pop-up strategy globally, and we've been involved in other, the ones in Italy, Capri, Montenegro, sorry, and Forte dei Marmi.
I have to go and inspect that one.
Yes, they're beautiful. And in Rome, instead, is a completely different scenario. I think we can identify two, we can divide the spectrum in two, the big brands and the small brands. Big brands usually, I think, they run to get the best looking historical buildings, and then they also have the means to restore them. For example, here I put some example of the Apple Store in Via del Corso, or Palazzo Fendi again in Via del Corso, La Rinascente. Usually there is the interest in being in well-located historical buildings. There is less use of pop-ups, probably because the city is very slow. Things don't change very quickly. So the traditional retail system applies. And on the other hand, there are smaller brands where there is the interest in craftsmanship and the care of details. And this is an example of a little shop that we did in Rome, in Campo Marzio, for Medelhan. That is an eyewear shop.
That's really nice. So do you roll out the same design concept for a brand in different cities when it's pop-up? Is that what you're saying? That's the, like what you've done?
Yeah, so of course the products that Dior will sell around the globe are the same, but the pop-ups differs because the location differs. So the constraints of a set will be different in one city from the other, and that's what makes then the final result interesting, and that's what we care about, trying to make the existing environment part of the new pop-up.
So you have to sort of address the culture of the locals as well as the environment and the brand of your client.
Yes, of course.
It's a lot to do. So on this client with Dior, how do you get your instructions? Are you given a location or are you given a concept to design?
We're given the location and we develop the concept together with Dior, because they have an interior architectural team. So everything is developed together, and then we bring the project. We develop the project to completion, because we are doing project management as well as design.
Okay, and I see that I saw the name Peter Morano on one of your images just there, who's
yeah. Yeah, no, that was just an example of the traditional retail space of a big brand, but that was done by Peter Marino, not by us.
Okay. Alessandra, I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but I'm going to go to Gaelle. Gaelle, I know you formerly found inspiration in your surroundings, especially in the French craftsmen, and they create bespoke high-end materials that you incorporate into your designs. But what's inspiring you particularly in the period in which we've just come through, environmental health? How will that impact on the concept of your designs for retail in the future?
Well, I think you just said it. I guess now after what we have lived, worldwide, we have to have we have to be more conscious as of sustainability aspect in our work. This is something that we were going into, you know, this consciousness of sustainability, and the pandemic has probably accelerates this this consciousness that we have to work on that harder than we used to in the past, trying to integrate as much as possible recycled material, local material as well into our design, while still, you know, providing a variety of details and finishes, but more consciously now than in the past. So that would be the main inspiration difference that would make following these pandemic times. For the rest, I would say it remains the same. You know, we have a lot of Italian people around this table, and France and Italy are very known for their craftsmanship. Not only these two countries, but these two in any case. And at the end of the day, we didn't have the chance to really meet a lot with the craftsmen we used to work with. So I guess we hope to soon enough have the chance to reconnect again with all of these, you know, supplier, manufacturer that, you know, pretty much make our projects living, basically, because we cannot do anything if we do not have any suppliers and manufacturer to work with. If we do not, that would just remain, you know, a project on paper.
Yeah. We've got some questions as well. So we have a question from Francesca Filippa, and she's asking, how important is it for a retail project to be Instagrammable? Meaning, do you as architects take the sharing experience onto socials into consideration when you're creating something? Is it going to be choreographed, or is that part of the impact of your brief? Very interesting question.
Sorry, before you answer, Gaelle, I would ask Alessandra if she can stop to share the screen, because we see the
Sorry,
desktop. Don't worry.
Am I sharing?
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's fine.
Instagram, we cannot really live without knowing about the Instagram, you know, factor that is now. That being said, and I guess I speak for myself and the designer we work with, we do not take that into account as a target in our design, but more on the contrary, work on the best design we can, and hopefully by essence it become afterwards Instagrammable. But what is Instagrammable is pretty much everything. A good design is Instagrammable, I would say. So no, we do not take that into account per se, but eventually that may be the case.
Yeah. I'm going to ask Duccio, in your opinion, how has retail design changed since the pre-pandemic?
I think that the COVID has just accelerate a retail transformation that was already underway for the online sales mostly. And so the number of the physical shop were already reducing, but maybe they are changing in dimension and in what they are. Because as you already said, it's not necessary to go inside the shop to purchase some good, but now is more the desire to experience the brand. So this is this emotional space that maybe before was already done, but in the capital, in the most important city. And I would like to show you just a few pictures that in a shop that is in a small city, but is already in this way, in this trend. just a moment.
It's okay. That's, I think that the whole retail sales pitch and direction has changed so much. So the retailers that have really been successful have been those that have adapted to lifestyle. And I think in that way, we as designers have to grab onto that too. So it's quite interesting to see, because of the brands that everyone today has and work for, how they've adapted that. I think particularly in that the way we spend our money is no longer just, as I said earlier, it's no longer just coming back with shopping. Maybe people go out just for a glass of champagne and to socialize, but they still want to sit in fabulous surroundings. And I think in that way, retailers that are the most successful are the ones that have actually adapted to social media and have incorporated design with social media in the same way that they've sort of aligned their target audience and the demographic of their audience and the age group of their audience with that social media. And I noticed that in some brands, they really do change their shops. Instead of rails and rails of clothes in a clothes shop, for example, you might only see 4 or 5 items on a rail. They're sold out so quickly. I don't want to trample across your presentation.
Yes, this is a shop in a small city in Italy, Reggio Emilia. This is a building how it was before, and the shop is in the main square of the city, where is the cathedral, and in this square there is a market 2 times a week. So it's a strange choice to do a shop in this way, not in the shopping street, but it's a choice due to the will to have communication with the relationship with the city, with the people that stay in the market, and the idea was that the life must go inside the shop, the real life. So we see the shop, the porch, we are allowed to close like it was before cafeteria, then become a bank. It's an old building with vaults from the 14th century. And this is the plan of the bank with this object that are completely out from the sense of the history of the building. And this is our project. We see the work in progress. I go back just a little. The shop is a clothes shop, but all this part is dedicated for different items, for books, magazine, design objects, and this is not all together, but they take place. The mix in a rotation. It's a mix that changes every month. So there is every time there is something new to see and to find. And also interesting is this real room that can host clothes, but also exhibition, DJ musical evening, and course of many different things. For example, cooking course. This is a small kitchen near at the side of the space. So this space is a multi-purpose space that invite people go inside the shop, take part of this what happening here, and the clothes are there, but are not the only reason to go inside.
Yes, yeah.
Here we see the work in progress with the cathedral and the vaults. The air conditioning is behind this wall. It's not visible. The building as it is now, 2019, just before the pandemic. But what is interesting that this is a kind of concept store in a small city. That I think maybe is an evolution of what we already saw in Paris or in London. But maybe this is a way for the future of the retail. Here there is the flooring is in terracotta tiles, like the square in Italy in the 15th century, like Siena, Piazza del Palio, for example.
Very clean.
Yes, everything is clean because everything is put on, but movable. So the space can be changed. It's not fixed one time for the next 10 years. They can keep the space and change all the items inside.
Okay, so change the fixtures.
So we are in Italy. So here there is old brick pillar from the 14th century. And also the fitting room are just put on the flooring, but they allow to see this ancient space like it is. That doesn't change the architecture of the interior.
Very interesting.
And last one, this is the rear space. As I said before, is a space with the possibility to put panels all around. And this panel can be changed. It can bring a picture or exhibition. It's a space where it's possible more, even more than the space in the front. It's possible to change everything, to keep just the flooring and have the possibility to use the space in many different ways.
That's so interesting, because you touched on 2 points, which I'm going to ask every guest to comment on. And the 2 points are people and exhibition space that you seem to have pulled out as the key components of the interiors, regardless of the client, regardless of the length of time, and regardless of the budget. The emphasis on everybody's projects and interiors and designs surround the space for alternating into something else, and they surround people also alternating. It's not the same audience, it's not the same age group, it's not the same price demographic. Everything is to change. It's very interesting because, as you say, previously a client of a super brand that it has stores in every city and in every country around the world would have a look, a brand, a formula, and it would be rolled out in every shop. So wherever you go, anywhere in the world, you'd recognize it by the look. But what seems to be evolving is that nothing is forever. It's for very short periods of time, and yet it still has to fit the super luxury client's look. So the design is changing to something that is very clean and simple. I don't know how you feel about what I'm saying about the people and the exhibition space, Duccio, if you agree with that.
But I think that every brand must keep something that is only his character. So, yeah. For example, maybe this material for the cashier, this one can stay the same in everywhere, but the facade, the interior scenario must change by the country and by the time.
And by the environment, yeah.
And also there must be something that can be easily changed during the life of the shop. So it's not necessary to rebuild the shop every 3-5 years. It's possible to have an evolution inside the shop, following the changing of the society. What's happened now with the online and the internet that change our scheme.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can I ask Alessandra, can you give me your opinion on how you're designing and what I'm saying about the exhibition space and people for your clients' projects?
Well, I think that now, from what we can see, like there is this new idea that customers are to feel part of a community. So there is the retail experience needs to be an immersive one. And in our case, with the Dior project, we combined food, fashion, and leisure. And especially with the one in Selfridges and with the current situation with COVID-19, people being less likely to travel, Dior tried to bring the beach feeling experience to London. But yes, I think that there is the idea of being part of the community that share the same brand values.
That's very.
And not everything turns around just buying products, but sharing other types of experiences.
It seems that the brand's main direction years ago was forced on the bottom line. It was all about the sale, and success was the, what was the profit. But it doesn't seem to be the driver anymore. It seems to be a byproduct of the shop. It's like, if we sell something, great, but it doesn't seem to be the key driver. I don't know if you would agree with that, Alessandra, or not.
Probably this will make a profit, but they will make profit by using all these tools.
Interesting. Gaelle, what do you think? I should say, I should broaden that question, not just what do you think. What do you think about the retail space as a concept for exhibition space to entice people in, and whether the emphasis is on sale or if the emphasis is on the people or on selling and maybe just showcasing the brand? I don't know how you feel as a designer when you get your brief. What is, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think now the driver is visibility, and that's the visibility that eventually give you more sale, more products sell, basically. So visibility in every aspect. We mentioned Instagram, but Instagram is just one example of how visibility is important, basically. That's the main driver. In the past, probably the main driver was, as you say, focus on the product itself. Now it's more the brand recognition, the visibility through the fashion shows, but now also the shops, the temporary store, the experience that you actually live while, you know, having a shopping experience. That would be the key driver now, which works for every type of project. It's obviously not just retail, it's also you know, very true for hospitality and restaurant, for instance.
It's quite interesting that here we are as designers and architects for the interior space for retail, for hospitality, for you know, residential. It's changed so much in the last decade. I think because the younger people are more noisy, and they also have more, they want to show their wealth, and we didn't show that before. But the companies, our clients, or the people that commission us as designers and architects, they have probably given us such a different brief to what we would have had in the past. And you're also adaptable, and you've created something very different in this transitional period of time, very, very carefully, without people noticing. And now when you look at what you've achieved and what you've done, it's so very different to the way a shop used to look 10 years ago. And the results are amazing, because now most people who decide to go out for a day's shopping would know what these super brands are. They would all, whichever country they're in, they'll know these super brands. So, you know, I want to say, from my point of view as a shopper, I love what you do. And, I love the brands, and I like the way that it's transcended. And I hope that retail continues to digress and diversify into various different ways, and that you keep leading that trend, because absolutely, retail is not dead. Absolutely, it's still touch and feel, and it's very important for us as a design industry to have the visual touch and feel, as well as the online experience. So I should say that there are some people that have been sending some questions, and they'll be answered later. And I want to say, ask you if there's anything you want to add to me jumping across you all the time. So Duccio, is there anything you would like to add before I hand over to Roberto? No.
Duccio,
yeah.
you have any word to close your speech?
You mean?
I mean, because we are going to close the webinar in a few minutes. I would like to the last words of from Ducciograssi for this day.
No. I see that there is a question by chat that ask the relation between exterior and interior, but there is no the interior and exterior must work together. We had not time to see also the shop in the interior. We just focus on the facade, the first part of my answer. But of course, the interior is something that the facade is something that prepare if the facade is interesting, means that there is something interesting also inside. If the facade is very high, big, means that the shop is an important shop where with 2-3 floors. What means is that the facade must be connected with the city, but of course also with the interior. So it's not important the structure of the building, but it is important the concept we we feel that is the same from the exterior to the inside the shop. This is, I would like to answer
Yes.
to
Well,
this.
we've got the connection. One hand washes the other, Duccio.
Yeah.
Inside and out. Okay. Alessandra, would you like to add something before we close?
No, not really.
Well, thank you for your contribution. It's great.
Yeah.
Gaelle, what would you like to say to close?
Oh, just thank you very much for inviting me and to have this chance to represent Campbell House, and obviously wishing every one of you, everyone watching, a lovely summer.
Oh, very, very nice. And I'm going to hand over to Roberta, and I just want to say thank you so much, Roberta, for inviting me, representing SBID, to work with you, and all my love from London, England to Italy.
Yeah, so we appreciated also the fact that you've come today after the final 2 days ago. So it means that you're really very strong, very strong. We appreciate it a lot. Because anyhow we are still friends anyhow. But not only with you, but I think that anyhow between England and Italy there is a stronger friendship that cannot be broken by soccer, but it will be just an episode in the path of our friendship.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. But so I would like to Vanessa to also say a special thank you to our sponsor who made possible also the event of today, and it's Vitter Design by Filippi 1971 and the Chiavari Interiors. And now you can see them on our website. And also I would like to thank our special guest of today, Gaelle, Alessandra, and Duccio, and a big thank you to our VIP moderator, Vanessa. Really, again, let me say again, it's really an honor to have you as moderator today. And then I would like to remind to our attendees that if they missed part of the webinar today, all our international streamings are always available on medelhan.com and to watch it. And I know that most of our attendees already they're used to that, so often they skip the live event and they go to watch in the night. But so there is also this possibility where we have to go also in the Netflix direction, let's say, because the internet and Netflix, they taught us how that we can always have the possibility to watch the content whenever.
Exactly. Great.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you. So we can close here. Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye. Tomorrow we have another event of another series with Stefano Boeri introducing the new project of Bosco Verticale and the Super Salone of September. See you, all of you guys, in September to the Design Week in Milan, and then Design Week in London after, right? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yay.
Good.
Was good, Roberto.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. Anytime. Thanks.
It's always a pleasure. Bye-bye.